Hey everyone, Skylinks here bringing you another video review. Today we're going to be doing Batman the Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul. Take a look at that comic cover. Now, the one thing that I hate about comics in general, and all comics, is just the fact that they can kill off comic book characters. And that they can put so much meaning into their death. So much. And then at some point in time they bring them back to life. Now, there's two reasons why I dislike this. One is because all that meaning you put into their death means nothing now. The second thing is, it makes death in comic books a minor inconvenience. I mean, what's the point of killing off a comic book character if they can just come back to life at some point? It would be nice in comic books if the character died, they stayed dead, at least for the most part. Now, I let that rule slide with Ra's al Ghul, and only with him. The reason for this is because it's his character to rejuvenate himself, or to make himself younger, or to bring himself back to life. It's what he does, it's what his character was built to do. You can't fault him for that, it's his nature. So I let it slide for this comic book character and for this graphic novel. Now, before we get into the graphic novel, the big thing I like about this graphic novel is this actually resolves a big problem for me. Now, see, ever since I started reading Batman comics, I've always wondered how old Bruce Wayne was and how many years he has left in the game. Now, it doesn't bother me Bruce Wayne gets old, but it bothers me the fact that his body gets old, so he won't be able to do what he can do for much longer. Someone will replace him, or someone will kill him, or at some point we're going to need to reboot Batman. And I don't want to reboot Batman. I like the modern age Batman. I think he's the best Batman so far. And I don't think he needs to be rebooted. So his age has always been an issue to me. Now if you do the math out right, you're going to come to around 37 to 35 as Batman's age. Give or take a few years. You have to count in the fact that in between year 1 and No Man's Land is roughly 9 to 10 years. And then you have to count in other small things in there with the graphic novels. But if you do your math out right, that's around his age. Now, I'm going to spoil something, but at some point in this comic, Batman gets thrown into a spring of life. Now, this isn't a Lazarus pit, but it works generally the same way, and he was very mortally wounded. So Batman falls into the spring of life, and not only does it heal him up, but it rejuvenates his age and makes him younger. It gives him his body when he was about 30, or maybe even younger. But it really makes him younger, so it gives Batman a few more years onto his life. Not like with Wonder Woman where she never ages, or with Superman where he ages really slowly, or something like that. Batman is human, so he's going to get old, so now he has a few extra years on him. Now I've talked about that point a little too much, let's actually get into the graphic novel. The Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul's basic plot is exactly what the title says. It's the resurrection of Ra's al Ghul. Basically what happens, Ra's al Ghul is still alive, and he's possessing bodies at different points. Now, these bodies will not last him. They dissolve and they decompose. So he needs a body that's tied to him by blood. That means he probably needs Damian. Now, I have to commemorate this Batman graphic novel because it gives you an in-depth past look of Ra's al Ghul, some of his history, where he found the Lazarus pit, who he was married to first, stuff like that, which was nice. You know, in this graphic novel it also puts characters in certain situations. For example, Robin at one point has the ability to have access to the Lazarus pit and have access to the secrets of resurrecting people, which he wants to use on Spoiler, or his dad, or Superboy. Of course, eventually he gets talked out of it, but just the dynamics of that situation was very nice. Now, eventually at some point in the graphic novel, Ra's al Ghul captures both Robin and Damian, and he makes Batman choose between the two. Which one Ra's al Ghul will use as his new body. Batman says, "We'll take my body." He says, it's one of these two. So Batman gave him an alternative, and let's look for the spring of life. Now, I'm not going to say too much about the ending, because the ending is kind of out of nowhere, and it's not necessarily confusing, it's just like, well, that was kind of thrown in there. So, the ending is mediocre. The graphic novel on the whole isn't that bad. It's not the best. It's not pure gold, but it definitely is better than Batman and Son. It has a very dire sense to it. In other words, everything is dire. Getting to Robin and Damian on time. Saving Ra's al Ghul. It's a very good feeling in this graphic novel. Personally, for me, it solves that Batman Age problem, so I have to give it props for that. But removing that, the art was pretty decent, although at some points it did jump back and forth. I don't like Damian at all, so I'm going to throw that in there, but he doesn't really ruin the graphic novel. Like I said, the graphic novel is just good. Not bad, not gold, it's just good. If you want something just fun to read on the side, pick it up. You won't be necessarily disappointed. Just know what you're getting into. With that said, I think I'll end the review here. And saying, this is Skyline, saying peace out for now.